Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a situation thinking you knew exactly what you were doing, only to have the ground shift beneath your feet in a way that changes everything? Not just a little twist or a minor inconvenience, but a moment that flips your entire world upside down. Because that's what happened to Lily. She wasn't supposed to fall in love. She was supposed to end something, not start something. And yet, here we are. What started as a mission to protect her sister from making the biggest mistake of her life became a tangled web of emotions, secrets, and a romance no one saw coming. Not even her. In the next few minutes, you're going to find out exactly how one woman's plan to sabotage a wedding turned into a love story that blindsided everyone involved. And the craziest part? You're going to feel like it could happen to you, or someone you know, because this isn't some far-fetched fairy tale. It's real, messy, emotional, and so painfully human. Now, if you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering, how does someone go from being the wedding crasher to becoming the bride-to-be's future sister-in-law? That's not a plot twist you see every day. And I promise you, by the time this story unfolds, not only will you get your answer, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and what really happens behind closed doors. I want you to stay with me, not just because this story is filled with jaw-dropping moments and emotional twists, but because there's something here that's going to hit you in a very personal place. We're talking about family bonds, protective instincts, gut-wrenching choices, and that one moment when you realize your heart wants what it wants, no matter how inconvenient or explosive it might be. So let's rewind for a second and set the scene. Picture a cozy little town outside Denver. Peaceful, picturesque, with those tree-lined streets and weekend farmers markets. The kind of place where everyone knows your name, your business, and your blood type. Lily hadn't been home in nearly 2 years. She was the kind of woman who built her life far away from the drama, the small talk, and the family expectations. A New York marketing exec with her life neatly packed into color-coded folders, she prided herself on being emotionally detached, logical, and fiercely independent. But then she got the call. The one that changed everything. Her mother's voice on the other end was trembling, but not with fear. With excitement. "Your sister's getting married," she said, her words practically skipping through the phone. And just like that, Lily's world tilted. Because she knew something no one else did. Lily had seen the texts. She had seen the screenshots. A year ago, she stumbled across something she couldn't unsee. Messages from her sister's fiancé to another woman. Not just flirty texts or vague emojis. These were full-on confessions, emotional intimacy, and plans for a future that didn't include her sister. At the time, Lily decided to wait. Maybe it was a one-time thing. Maybe he'd change. But as the wedding date crept closer and the Instagram-perfect engagement photos started popping up, she realized silence was no longer an option. Her sister, Emma, deserved the truth. Even if it meant shattering her heart. So Lily packed a bag, boarded a plane, and made a silent vow. This wedding would not happen. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared her for him. The groom's brother, James, wasn't even supposed to be there that early. He'd been traveling for work, bouncing between time zones as a private wealth consultant for elite clients. Tall, quietly intense, with eyes that didn't just look at you but through you, James was the complete opposite of his charming surface-level brother. Where the groom, Dylan, could light up a room with one-liners and perfect teeth, James hung back in the shadows, observing everything and saying very little. And yet, from the moment he met Lily, accidentally in the kitchen at 7 a.m., both reaching for the same mug, it was like something charged the air between them. Like the universe blinked and changed the rules without telling anyone. And here's where things get complicated. Because Lily didn't come for butterflies or sparks or chemistry that made her question her sanity. She came for justice. For her sister. For the truth. But the more time she spent in that house, watching James navigate the tension between brothers, seeing the way he shielded Emma from the emotional landmines she didn't even know she was standing on, the more the lines started to blur. And then came the moment that changed everything. A late-night walk. A storm. A broken umbrella. One accidental confession. And suddenly, Lily found herself in a heart-wrenching dilemma. Tell her sister the truth and destroy the wedding? Or follow a growing connection that could destroy her relationship with her family forever? Now, before we go any deeper, I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself, what would you do? Because this isn't just Lily's story. It's the story of anyone who's ever had to choose between protecting someone they love and following the truth that could break them. It's about those moments where every option feels wrong, where your heart and your conscience are locked in a battle you didn't ask for. And I know, believe me, I know. It's easy to say what you would do when it's not your life, your sister, your guilt. But what happens when the truth doesn't just affect one person? It affects everyone. In this video, you're going to hear it all. The late-night arguments. The emotional confrontations. The secrets that were never supposed to come out. You're going to see how Lily tried to balance loyalty with longing, and how James, quiet, complicated James, became the only person who really saw her, even as everything around them threatened to fall apart. There are moments in this story that will make your heart race, your chest tighten, and your mind scream, "No way that just happened." But it did. Every shocking twist. Every emotional meltdown. Every impossible choice. And through it all, there's one burning question you won't be able to shake. Can love born from betrayal ever be real? And here's the master move. What you think is going to happen. It won't. What you expect Lily to do. She doesn't. Just when you believe the story is heading toward a classic rom-com redemption arc, it veers. It dives into the messy middle of human emotion. Because that's what makes this story different. It's not polished or predictable. It's raw, flawed, and, honestly, uncomfortably real. And that's exactly why you won't be able to look away. But we're just getting started. Because as Lily digs deeper into the truth, she starts uncovering secrets that go way beyond a few inappropriate texts. There's more. So much more. A past that the groom has been hiding. A connection between Emma and James that no one, not even Lily, saw coming. And a decision that will leave someone standing alone at the altar. The question is, who? So sit tight, keep watching, and don't blink. Because the moment you think you've figured it out, everything changes. Lily had always been the fixer. Even as a kid, when her parents argued or Emma cried over a lost toy or scraped knee, Lily was the one who stepped in, cleaned up the mess, and made things right. That instinct never left her, even after she moved across the country and built a life that looked polished on the outside but sometimes felt hollow on the inside. So when she arrived at her childhood home and saw Emma glowing in the kind of delusional bliss that only love or denial can create, her stomach twisted into a knot she couldn't untangle. The wedding was just a week away. White flowers were being delivered, seating charts were being finalized, and the town was buzzing with excitement. But all Lily could think about was that text thread, those screenshots burned into her memory, messages from Dylan to a woman named Sophie, full of nicknames and future plans, the kind of intimacy that didn't just suggest infidelity, it screamed it. And yet here he was, walking around the house like the perfect fiancé, charming everyone from the florist to their grandmother, while Emma hung on his every word like he was the center of the universe. Lily hadn't told anyone about the messages. Not even James. Not yet. There was something about him, calm, steady, almost too observant, that made her hesitate. She couldn't quite read him. He'd only just returned from London, where he had been working on a high-profile financial deal that Lily later found out had crashed and burned due to some client scandal. He didn't talk about it, but the tension in his jaw when the subject came up told her enough. Still, there was a weight behind his silence that felt different from the casual conversations she was used to. James wasn't the type to talk just to fill the air. He listened. Really listened. And that unnerved her more than she wanted to admit. One evening, while the rest of the family gathered in the living room to binge-watch a wedding reality show that made Lily physically cringe, she found herself on the back porch with James, both nursing cups of tea, neither saying much. But in the silence, there was an understanding forming. A sense that he, too, wasn't buying the fairy tale everyone else had swallowed whole. Over the next few days, as the wedding prep spiraled into chaos, dresses arriving with the wrong hemline, a cake mix-up that nearly caused a meltdown, and a rehearsal dinner location getting double-booked, Lily stayed close to Emma, trying to find the right moment, the perfect opening to tell her the truth. But every time she got close, something stopped her. Sometimes it was the way Emma looked at Dylan, like he was everything she'd ever wanted. Other times it was the fear of being seen as the jealous, bitter sister, the one who couldn't let her sibling be happy. And somewhere beneath it all, a darker thought began to creep in. What if Emma already knew and just didn't care? What if she had seen the messages too, but chose to believe the lie because the truth was too painful? That thought haunted Lily more than she could admit. Meanwhile, James began asking quiet questions. Nothing too direct, just casual observations. How long had Emma and Dylan been together? Had they ever broken up before? How did Lily feel about him? At first she deflected. But one night, as they cleaned up after a chaotic family dinner, she finally cracked. The wine had softened her defenses, and the flickering light from the kitchen pendant lamp cast shadows that made everything feel more intimate, more confessional. She told him about the texts. Not everything, just enough to see his reaction. And that's when things shifted. He didn't look shocked. Not really. More like, resigned. As if a puzzle piece he had been holding finally slid into place. And then he said something that made Lily's blood run cold. "You're not the only one who's been watching him." From that moment, the story deepened in ways Lily couldn't have predicted. James had his own suspicions about Dylan. Over the years, he had seen his brother manipulate people with the kind of charm that masked a deep, calculated selfishness. There had been other women, rumors mostly, nothing solid, but enough that James never fully trusted the golden boy image Dylan so effortlessly projected. Their relationship, once close, had eroded over time into a silent rivalry. James had chosen to stay away, to avoid the drama, to focus on work. But now, watching his brother prepare to marry someone like Emma, kind, open-hearted, and almost tragically trusting, James felt a responsibility he hadn't expected. Together, he and Lily began piecing things together, their late-night porch talks turning into whispered strategy sessions. They combed through social media, tracked activity patterns, even found an old burner account Dylan had used to follow Sophie's private page. And yet, despite mounting evidence, the question remained, what were they going to do with it? The stakes were getting higher by the hour. Emma was already emotionally overwhelmed, barely sleeping, and clinging to the idea of a perfect wedding to keep herself grounded. Their parents were stressed but thrilled, and the entire community had poured time and energy into the event. To drop a bomb now would be like throwing a grenade into a garden. Lily didn't want to be the villain, and James didn't want to destroy what little relationship he had left with his brother. But as the day of the rehearsal dinner approached, the pressure reached a breaking point. That's when Lily stumbled on something she wasn't supposed to find. A letter, hidden in Dylan's desk drawer, addressed to someone named L. It wasn't clear if it was for Lily or someone else, but the contents were unmistakably personal and disturbingly affectionate. The phrasing matched the tone from the texts. And at the bottom was a date. Last month. As she read the letter in the quiet of her childhood bedroom, her hands trembling, Lily realized they were running out of time. This wasn't just about telling Emma anymore. This was about stopping a train that was speeding toward disaster. But how? If they confronted Dylan, he would deny everything. He was too smooth, too practiced. If they told Emma without proof, she might not believe them, or worse, she might blame them for trying to ruin her big day. And in the background of it all, the tension between Lily and James was shifting into something neither of them had words for. Every glance lingered a second too long. Every brush of the hand felt electric. And yet they said nothing. Because even though their bond was growing, neither wanted to admit what was happening between them. Not now. Not while the world was unraveling around them. Then came the night of the rehearsal dinner. The tension in the air was thick, like a storm waiting to break. Dylan was on edge, snapping at the caterers, pacing like a man with something to hide. Emma, radiant in a soft lavender dress, kept checking her phone, a flicker of doubt in her eyes that Lily hadn't seen before. As the evening dragged on, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. She just didn't know what. And then, right as the toasts began, a mysterious guest showed up. A woman in a black dress, uninvited, standing at the edge of the patio with a look that could cut glass. She didn't say anything, just locked eyes with Dylan. And in that moment, Lily knew exactly who she was. But before she could move, before anyone could say a word, Emma turned around and saw the woman too. And just like that, everything stopped. The silence that fell over the patio was deafening, as if the air itself had paused to gasp. Every eye turned to the woman in black. Her presence as commanding as it was unnerving. She wasn't just a guest who'd wandered into the wrong party. No one believed that for a second. She belonged to someone in that circle. And every instinct in Lily's body screamed who. Dylan's face had gone pale, his confident mask slipping just enough for those closest to him to notice. His jaw clenched, his hand twitched by his side, and when he finally stepped forward, it was with the hesitant stiffness of a man facing a loaded gun. Emma stood frozen, her expression unreadable, her eyes darting between the stranger and the man she was set to marry in less than 48 hours. "Who is that?" she asked, not to anyone in particular, just out loud, Like her brain couldn't make sense of what her eyes were seeing. Dylan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The woman smiled, not kindly, but with the kind of satisfaction that only comes from knowing you're about to detonate someone's carefully constructed world. Lily's heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear over it. This was the moment. The moment everything either crumbled or exploded. She watched as James moved slightly toward Emma, a subtle protective shift in posture that didn't go unnoticed. Dylan finally spoke, his voice low and brittle. "Sophie, what are you doing here?" And there it was. Her name. The name from the messages. The woman from the screenshots. The one he said didn't matter. The one he swore was a mistake, if it ever came up. She wasn't a ghost anymore. She was real, breathing, and standing on their front lawn in designer heels. Sophie stepped forward, scanning the crowd like she was choosing her moment. "You invited me," she said casually, pulling out her phone and scrolling to a message. "Well, not to the wedding, but I figured if you can string someone along for over a year, the least you could do is look them in the eye when they find out you're getting married to someone else." The words dropped like bricks. A ripple of whispers began, guests murmuring, faces turning from curiosity to disbelief to outright shock. Emma's breath hitched audibly. "Is this true?" she asked Dylan, voice barely above a whisper. He looked around helplessly, trying to regain control, but the room had already turned on him. His charisma couldn't save him now. "I can explain," he began, but Emma took a step back. Lily moved to her side instinctively, but Emma held up a hand to stop her. Her face was pale, lips trembling, but her eyes were sharp with something Lily hadn't seen before: clarity. Painful, unforgiving clarity. "You've been lying to me?" she said again, this time louder. Dylan's response came too fast, too polished. "It wasn't serious. It was before we got engaged." But Sophie cut in. "Before the engagement?" She pulled up another message, dated only a few weeks ago, the screen glowing in the dusk. "Then why were you in my bed last month?" The crowd gasped. Someone's drink shattered against the patio tile. James stepped in, placing a firm hand on Dylan's chest to hold him back as the groom lunged forward. "You're lying!" Dylan shouted, but his voice cracked in the way a guilty man's voice does when the lie slips from their grip. The weight of the moment was unbearable. Lily watched her sister's face crumble, not with shock anymore, but with the dull pain of confirmation. She'd suspected something. Lily could see it now. The distracted looks, the way Emma had been trying to convince herself as much as everyone else. But this public humiliation, this betrayal being laid bare in front of friends, family, and strangers? It was something no one should have to endure. As Emma fled inside, Lily followed, leaving James to deal with the chaos unraveling on the patio. They made it to Lily's childhood room, the door clicking shut behind them as Emma collapsed onto the bed in tears. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Just the sound of her sister's sobs filled the room, raw and broken. Lily sat beside her, finally placing a hand on her back. "I tried to tell you," she whispered, not as an accusation but as a regret. Emma turned her tear-streaked face toward her. "I know," she said, and that broke Lily more than any words could. Emma had known. On some level she had always known. But she wanted the dream more than she wanted the truth. And now the dream was dead. Downstairs, the situation had devolved into shouting. Dylan was arguing with James, trying to twist the narrative into something salvageable. "You don't understand," he spat. "She ambushed me. It's not what it looks like." But James wasn't buying it anymore. "I've been silent for too long," he said coldly. "You've always used people like they're disposable. But not her. Not Emma. And not Lily." Dylan's eyes narrowed. "Lily?" he said slowly, as if tasting the word for the first time. "So that's what this is about?" He laughed. Bitterly. "You're trying to blow up my life because you're into my fiancé's sister?" James didn't answer, which said more than words ever could. Outside, Sophie had vanished. Whether someone asked her to leave or she simply slipped away after dropping her truth bomb, no one knew. But the damage was done. The next morning, the town was buzzing. Local Facebook groups lit up with posts. Wedding drama. Cheating scandal. Sisters caught in the middle. Everyone had an opinion, and none of it was kind. Emma refused to talk to anyone but Lily. The wedding was officially on hold, though not cancelled, at least not yet. Guests were in limbo, unsure whether to pack up or wait for some dramatic reconciliation. But deep down, everyone knew this wasn't one of those stories where the bride forgives and walks down the aisle anyway. This was a relationship built on lies, and it had finally collapsed under the weight of the truth. And just when things couldn't get any more complicated, another twist emerged. That evening, as Lily and James sat in the driveway, trying to make sense of what came next, he handed her something he'd been holding onto, a photo, old and slightly faded. It showed Dylan and Sophie, in Europe, from nearly 2 years ago. "They've been together longer than you think," he said. "And not just casually. They lived together for a while. I didn't connect the dots until now, but she wasn't just a fling. She was the original girlfriend. And I think he left her to pursue Emma." Lily's jaw dropped. "You're saying this entire engagement was built on someone else's heartbreak?" James nodded. "I think he used Emma as a rebound, but once he saw how much she loved him, how easy it was to impress her family, he leaned in. And then it was too late to back out." That revelation hit Lily like a freight train. Not only had Dylan betrayed Emma, he had manipulated her into playing a part in a story she never knew she was in. And now, Emma wasn't just mourning a broken relationship. She was waking up to the fact that her love had been a consolation prize in someone else's romantic tragedy. As if that wasn't devastating enough, Lily's phone buzzed. An unknown number. One message. "There's something else you need to know about Dylan. Meet me. Alone." And that's where we'll pick it up next, because what Lily finds in that meeting will uncover a secret that not even James saw coming, a truth that links more people to Dylan's lies than anyone realized, and a decision that could tear what's left of the family apart. Lily stood under the soft flicker of a downtown street lamp, her phone clutched tightly in her hand, the mystery message still glowing on the screen. She wasn't even sure why she came. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the sense that something was still missing from the picture, some final piece she needed to fully understand how deeply Dylan's lies ran. The streets were quiet, the late hour making everything feel like it was suspended in time. Then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged, nervous, tentative, looking over her shoulder like she regretted coming at all. It was Sophie. But this time, she wasn't polished or composed. Her makeup was smudged, her shoulders hunched beneath a weathered cardigan, and when she spoke, her voice trembled. "I didn't tell you everything," she said, barely louder than a whisper. "Because I didn't think you'd believe me." Lily's heart pounded. She nodded for Sophie to go on, and what came next twisted the story into something no one could have predicted. Sophie revealed that Dylan hadn't just been cheating. He had been scamming. Not in the textbook criminal sense, but emotionally and financially. During their time together in Europe, he convinced her to lend him thousands of dollars for a startup idea he never intended to launch. He sold her on the dream, promised her love, commitment, even marriage. But once the money ran out and the illusion cracked, he ghosted her and reappeared months later with Emma. "He used me to build the lifestyle he needed to impress your family," Sophie said bitterly. "The apartment, the car, even the ring. My money helped pay for it all. I have the wire transfers to prove it." Lily's breath caught. The ring. The same ring Emma had been showing off for weeks, the one their mother said reminded her of her own engagement. It wasn't just a betrayal of love. It was theft wrapped in romance, deception disguised as devotion. And the worst part? Dylan knew how to charm people so well, he probably thought he could walk away clean. But now, the entire facade was unraveling fast. Lily thanked Sophie and left quickly, needing space to think. By the time she pulled into the driveway back home, her mind was racing. Emma deserved to know the truth, the full truth. But so did James. And part of Lily feared what that truth might do to him. The next morning, the air was thick with tension. The wedding was officially cancelled, though guests still lingered in town, trying to salvage their travel plans. Inside the house, the mood was subdued, the atmosphere that of a family in mourning, except instead of death, it was disillusionment they were grieving. Lily found Emma in the kitchen, staring blankly at a cold cup of coffee. She sat beside her and told her everything. About Sophie, the money, the lies, all of it. Emma didn't cry this time. She just listened, nodded slowly, and when Lily finished, she whispered, "Thank you for not letting me go through with it." That moment didn't need fanfare. It was quiet and raw and real. Two sisters who had finally reached the other side of heartbreak and found each other still standing. Later that day, James found Lily in the backyard, watching the wind ripple through the tall grass. He knew something had changed the moment she looked at him. "There's more," she said, and as she told him everything Sophie revealed, she braced for his reaction. But James didn't explode. He didn't spiral into rage or shock. He just sat with it, processing the way he always did. And then he said something that surprised her. "I always knew there was something broken in him. I just didn't want to believe it went that deep." Lily reached for his hand, and for the first time, they didn't pull away. Whatever had been simmering between them was no longer hiding behind secrets or shadows. It was real. And this time, there was nothing stopping it. Days passed. Dylan vanished. No apology, no explanation, just disappeared, likely running from the consequences now catching up to him. Sophie went public with her story, posting screenshots and receipts that quickly went viral, her post gaining traction with keywords like toxic relationship, cheating fiancé exposed, and wedding disaster goes viral. The story exploded online, gaining sympathy and sparking conversations about emotional manipulation, red flags, and the importance of listening to your intuition. Emma watched it all unfold with a surreal calm, her pain now transmuted into something stronger: clarity. She started posting her own journey. Not to retaliate, but to heal. Her videos talking about self-worth, boundaries, and surviving public humiliation gained unexpected popularity, attracting followers who saw strength in her vulnerability. She was no longer the girl who almost married the wrong man. She was a woman who saved herself before it was too late. And Lily? She stayed for a while, helping Emma navigate the aftermath. But eventually she returned home, her world a little shaken, her heart a little softer. James visited her often, each time staying longer than the last. Their connection wasn't built on whirlwind emotions or illusions. It was built in the wreckage, tested by fire, and strengthened by truth. They didn't rush it. They didn't make promises they couldn't keep. But there was something unmistakably solid between them, something worth exploring. A slow, quiet love that had grown not from convenience, but from shared scars and honest conversations. But just when it all seemed to settle, a letter arrived. Addressed to Lily. No return address. Inside was a single photo: Dylan, sitting across from a man in a tailored suit, shaking hands. On the back of the photo was a note, scrawled in messy handwriting: he wasn't working alone. And suddenly, the story took one last turn. Because maybe Dylan wasn't just a liar. Maybe he was part of something bigger. A web of deceit that went far beyond a broken engagement and a stolen heart. And that, my friends, is how one woman's plan to protect her sister turned into a journey that exposed lies, uncovered hidden truths, and sparked an unexpected love story. But what happens next might just be another story altogether. Would you like a teaser or follow-up storyline to launch a sequel video? Would you like me to continue into the climax next?